Donald Trump desperately needs a distraction and a diversion from the failures of his administration, from the Epstein files, and he thought that that was going to be the shooting of Charlie Kirk. But now that these shooters' extreme views are becoming public, Donald Trump is not only in a complete state of panic, but is trying to find something else for us to talk about. But this new distraction for Donald Trump can't just be called a distraction because of how dangerous it is, and it is his threats of literal war that we saw in a screaming meltdown that we're going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into the complete meltdown that we saw from Donald Trump, I want to start with such a perfect call out of what Republicans have totally ignored in the wake of the Charlie Kirk shooting, and that comes from Jasmine Crockett right here.
Y'all love to cherry pick because you claim that the immigrants are the reason for crime, but you have nothing to say about white supremacists in this country. I don't remember, as we are headed to yet a record number of school shootings in this country as it relates to children, I don't remember y'all bringing bills in the names of any of these itty-bitty children. In fact, the most recent shooting, as y'all love to send thoughts and prayers, these babies were legitimately praying when they were killed. So I don't remember y'all trying to do gun reform for all of that. I don't remember y'all being super outraged when it came to January 6th and those defendants. Well over 1,000 defendants. And we're talking about they beat up on law enforcement. Now y'all love law enforcement. You love some ICE. Now that ICE is going around thugging everywhere. But nevertheless, I don't remember y'all even having the courage to say, yes, put the damn plaque up. That was signed into law. Y'all won't even do that. So don't tell me that y'all are here being the champions for everybody. You are very selective. So yes, it is a game. Because if I want to do legislation, I don't have to put somebody's name on it to do right. I don't have to put one of the children's names so that I can have real gun reform and save lives. And I will yield.
It's no surprise that Republicans live in their own reality where they refuse to acknowledge the political violence not only carried out by those who disproportionately perpetrate it, radicalized young white men in America, but they also don't care about the extremist language and the political violence that this administration is engaging with. Every ICE raid that is a disappearing of an American citizen or a member of a community is Donald Trump carrying out political violence. But the selective memory of the right, one, shows how little they care, but two, just how willing they are to exploit any political action, any crisis into political gain for themselves. It's why I don't take these people seriously. It's why I refuse to engage in their political theater. And it's why it makes so much sense that this is Donald Trump's response to Charlie Kirk shooting that we see right here before his insane threats.
Charlie Kirk, sir, what organizations on the left do you anticipate investigating? You talked about this last week.
Well, the problem is on the left. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left, that's not the right.
Do you plan on investigating?
We'll see. We'll be announcing.
Donald Trump is giving away the game. He is saying that the left-wing radicals are already under investigation. He's referred to liberal organizations multiple times, and that's such a key point. Donald Trump is using this as an excuse to carry out his authoritarian project without any actual reflection on the rhetoric of the right wing because they don't care. They will only get more aggressive. They were desperate in praying for this shooter to be of a marginalized group so that they can only ramp up their hatred anymore. The way that Charlie Kirk died does not justify the way that he lived or the actions of the rest of the right to continue to incessantly attack marginalized people. That is what Donald Trump continues to do in his administration. And like I said earlier in this video, they are carrying out political violence and the illegal attacks that they take on our country and abroad that they ignore. Donald Trump raises no qualms with Putin's vicious attack on Ukraine. He cares not for the children in Gaza being killed by a war criminal. By the way, our tax dollars are paying for that genocide. And Donald Trump has now refused to rule out starting another military conflict. Just listen to him right here.
Is getting rid of the president an option? Is getting rid of Maduro an option right now?
We'll see what happens. It's not an option or not option. We'll see. He had an election that was wrong. It was almost as corrupt as our election of 2020. You know that? You know what I'm talking about? I wouldn't say theirs was much more corrupt, but it was certainly corrupt. But ours was corrupt also. Are you going with us? Huh? Are you going with us, Maggie?
Not with you.
Good.
Just one more on Venezuela. The president of Venezuela called the strike on the boat illegal. Are you concerned that Maduro might escalate something?
No, what's illegal are the drugs that were on the boat and the drugs that are being sent into our country and the fact that 300 million people died last year from drugs. That's what's illegal.
Do you think he's not telling the truth when he's
So Donald Trump isn't ruling out striking Venezuela. Now, Donald Trump hasn't given a reason for striking Venezuela. Donald Trump doesn't have any conception of what long-term foreign policy that play that is for the United States. He just wants to attack. He just wants to look strong. He just wants to intimidate. Now, what does that sound like? That sounds like the exact characterization the right has tried to make of the left. That we are just operating out of control. We are so radical and unchecked with power that every action we take is only to advance our political goals, and we'll do whatever it takes to make that happen. That's Donald Trump right now. And the fact that these people can't see that or choose not to leads me to believe one of two things. The first, which is of course true, is that they're in a cult. The second of which is they're just very stupid. These are stupid people who are blinded by either a religious or political psychosis that keeps them from understanding the actual state of the world. It's why we can't engage with them in good faith. It's why I'm not trying to appease their fake feelings by eulogizing their white nationalist god in Charlie Kirk. I'm not going to do it because they see everyone else as subhuman. They don't care about our lives. It's not that you can't speak ill of the dead to them. That's the phrase that you hear tossed around a lot lately. But what I think is more important is how you treat those that are alive. Why have we heard nothing about the children in school who lost parts of themselves on the same day as the Kirk shooting? Nothing for those kids in Colorado? Oh, we didn't hear anything about that? There was no call for condemnation there. Of course, the assailant was a right-wing radical. They haven't talked about their rhetoric. They simply don't care. This is a political moment, and it's once again a political moment Donald Trump is trying to take advantage of. And Chris Murphy spoke in greater detail about what these potential strikes on Venezuela mean and why Donald Trump is trying to carry them out.
You probably saw news that last week the Trump administration took this airstrike on a boat off the coast of Venezuela. First of all, we have sort of no information on who was on that boat or who was killed. It might be, as the Trump administration says, members of a drug cartel. It might be civilians. We don't know. But there's two important things here that are really concerning that you need to know about. First is the president has no legal authority to take that strike. We are not at war with Venezuela. We have not declared war against any of the cartels there. This is a president who every single day is acting like the law doesn't apply to him. That's a problem domestically as he uses the Department of Justice to target and harass his political enemies. But arguably this is an even bigger deal internationally, because if the president can take strikes against anyone anywhere without congressional authorization, then he can also drag us into wars overseas without any debate domestically. This is the most irresponsible, reckless president America has ever seen. And to let him engage in military activity overseas without the consent of the American people, it's so dangerous.
I don't know how anyone could take away anything from the past week other than we are living in a time in our politics in which we just can't engage in good faith. We just can't. And any attempt to is doing ourselves a disservice. Now, when I say we can't engage in good faith, I'm not advocating for political violence. Of course not. It's ridiculous. Of course, it's the notion that the right wants to push. I'm just saying the appeasement of feelings, giving time to mourn, is not the reality of this situation. When we treat the right like they are people with real empathy who we must respect out of kindness, out of dignity, out of politics, which would be normal, we're doing the rest of the country a disservice when we take them at their word. What a failure it was for so many Democratic politicians at the beginning of this administration to say, maybe Marco Rubio will be a fine Secretary of State. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, I can see that. He had a respectable career. Kristi Noem was a governor. She'll be fine at Homeland Security. There were votes for those people. There were. Elon and Doge. I know he donated hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump, and we constantly talk about how we have to get money out of our politics. This is the richest man in the world who has abused striking workers, committed crimes himself, is under investigation. But you know what? We want to be perceived as willing to be bipartisan rather than achieving the real goals of our movement. That's how a lot of people acted. And where did it get us? To a place it's hard to return from. And so if we do that every time, if we take the bait of acting like these are people worthy of rationalizing with, of hearing out, I don't really know where that leads us. If you want to be a centrist and say, all right, I'm going to be in the middle of Chris Murphy, who I think is, has pretty mainstream views. Not to say that he's not a staunch progressive who advocates a lot of the same policy as I do. But if you want to be in the middle of him and Brian Kilmeade, who just said euthanize the homeless, you're going to end up a lot farther on the right than you are the left or a conventional center. So to take all of what they say at face value and act like Charlie Kirk saying that black women can't do jobs in the workforce and say that that's an opinion rather than bigotry, it's not an opinion, it's bile. And I refuse to engage with it. I just refuse. So I'm not going to take these people as good faith actors. I'm going to call them out. And I think we should do it forcefully. That is what I can promise on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting. We're not going to let them silence us. And until next time, I'll see you soon.